The clinic hummed with a low antiseptic drone, the kind of sound you learn to tune out after years. My office was small, windowless, a deliberate choice to keep distractions at bay. Just me, my old computer, and the endless parade of fragmented minds. It was late, past 7, and the city outside was already fading into that bruised twilight. I was sifting through patient histories, the screen casting a pale blue glow on my face, when I paused. Sarah Jenkins, for instance. A perfectly normal woman, mother of 2, presented with generalized anxiety. Nothing out of the ordinary, really. But then I scrolled down, and there it was, tucked into a small corner of her report. A handwritten note, scrawled in red ink. It wasn't a medical symbol. It looked like a child's attempt at something ancient. A swirling, angular symbol, utterly meaningless. I didn't remember seeing that before. Didn't remember writing it. I certainly didn't remember any of my colleagues being so unprofessional as to deface a patient's file like that. Maybe Sarah had scratched it in herself during a session when I wasn't paying close enough attention. It seemed unlike her, but then again, people do strange things when they're hurting. I frowned, pinching the bridge of my nose. My eyes felt gritty. Overworked, Evelyn, that's all it is. Just minor details I'm missing. I shook my head, a small dismissal, and tried to focus on the next case summary. But the image of that red symbol, so out of place, kept snagging the edge of my thoughts. I finally dragged myself home, the evening commute a blur of red taillights and exhaust fumes. My apartment on the 10th floor was my sanctuary. Tidy, predictable. The only chaos I dealt with lived within 4 walls at the clinic. I went through the usual motions, kicked off my shoes by the door, dropped my bag, flicked on the soft glow of a lamp. I put the kettle on, the familiar hiss a comfort, and then settled onto the sofa with a mug of chamomile, the local news murmuring from the TV. Outside, the rain had started, drumming against the window panes, a steady rhythm against the city's distant hum. Then I heard it. A whistle, low, long, and clear. A note that stretched and faded, then returned. It was a strange tune, unfamiliar, not really a melody you could hum along to. It sounded like it was right here, in my apartment, echoing off the walls. I stopped breathing, my tea mug half raised. What the hell? I looked around the living room, at the rain-streaked window. The rain was coming down hard, I mean really hard. No way I'd hear anything from outside over that. My ears strained, trying to pinpoint the source. Nothing. Just the rain. But the whistle, or its echo, stuck in my head. Must be the wind, I murmured to myself, reaching for the remote. Through the vents, maybe. I turned up the volume on the news, hoping to drown it out. Or, just working too much. The words felt thin, even to me. The whistle, silent now in the apartment, still resonated inside my skull. A faint, persistent hum. A sensory echo. It was just an echo, I told myself, nothing to worry about, just my mind playing tricks. That night was different. It wasn't just a dream, not like the faded, jumbled visions people usually come to me about. This was an experience. Full technicolor, vivid. I was standing under a sky the color of a deep bruise, purples and indigos swirling. And the ground beneath me? It wasn't earth. It was smooth, flowing architecture, curving structures with no sharp angles, nothing I could recognize. But that wasn't the worst of it.
Up above, dominating everything, huge and terrible, was the planet, or structure, whatever it was. It hung there, gigantic, silently rotating, pulsing with an eerie, rhythmic blue light. It was the same thing my patients had started describing. These synchronized nightmares, identical down to the last impossible detail. And in that dream, a voice. Not from the structures, not from the planet, but from inside my head. It wasn't loud, just a gentle whisper, but clearer than anything I'd ever heard. Unite, integrate, seek ascension. The words weren't menacing, not exactly. More like an invitation, a promise. It repeated, not demanding, but certain. I jolted awake, bolting upright in bed, my breath ragged. My sheets were tangled, damp with sweat. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drum. My lips formed the words, "No, no way."
My voice was a shaky whisper in the silent room. Just a dream. It's because of the cases, all the data, all the stories. I'm a psychologist. I understand how the mind works. Suggestion. I tried to tell myself this, tried to rationalize the fear still clenching my stomach. But the image of that gigantic, blue, pulsing thing wouldn't leave me. And the whisper, oh God, the whisper wasn't gone. It was still there, a soft, persistent hum in the background of my thoughts. A constant, chilling hum. The next morning, I was a zombie. I felt heavy, like I hadn't slept at all. I managed to shower, get dressed, and drag myself to the clinic. First order of business? Coffee, my usual routine. I stood by the machine, watching the dark liquid drip into my favorite mug, the one with the clinic's small, discreet logo. The overhead fluorescence cast a cold, unforgiving light on everything. As I waited, I noticed something. A hairline crack. It traced a faint, almost invisible line from the rim down to the base of the mug. It was so fine, you had to catch it in just the right light. But when I did, a shiver ran down my spine. The crack, it looked exactly like that strange angular symbol Sarah had drawn on her file. Eerily similar. I picked up the mug. A coldness, sharp and distinct, traveled up my arm. Not from the coffee's temperature, which was still just a stream of hot brew, but from the crack itself. My fingers traced the line, and I felt a strange tingle, almost a burn. No, that's just a pattern in the ceramic, Evelyn, or an old crack. I tried to dismiss it. But this mug, my mug, had been fine yesterday. It was sturdy. I kept it here forever. How could it just crack like that, and in that shape? I mean, who draws a symbol on a patient's file, then dreams about a planet in the sky, and then finds that exact same symbol etched into her coffee mug? It was too much. It had to be. I sat down abruptly, the plastic chair groaning under me. My mind raced, trying to find a logical chain. There wasn't one, not one that made sense. I was breathing hard, shallow breaths. This wasn't isolated. It was connected. This wasn't just my imagination. This was real. My hands were trembling. I saw them. Then I leaned over, my eyes fixated on the cabinet below the coffee machine. Another mug sat there, identical. I reached for it, slowly, my fingers brushing against the cool ceramic. And there it was, another crack, perfectly mirroring the first one, an identical sign, a disturbing redundancy. My head started to throb. The afternoon rolled on, a blur of half-listened-to patients and forced professionalism.
I felt distant, like I was moving through thick water. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text. Unknown number. I stared at it, my thumb hovering over the screen. A single emoji. A dark, unblinking planet. And then the text. You are not alone. Your dreams, your call, all ours. My blood ran cold. I hadn't told anyone about my dream, not a soul, and certainly not about the whisper. Who the hell sent this? My mind raced, grabbing at any explanation. Someone playing a sick joke? But how could they know? I quickly deleted the message, my heart hammering against my ribs. Just a prank, it had to be. But as I scrolled through my contact list, a new entry had appeared, bold and glaringly out of place. The home. I didn't add it. I definitely didn't. My day had started with the normal routine. Checking emails, setting up appointments, the usual pre-clinic buzz. I was trying to maintain that sense of detached professionalism, focusing on the structured chaos of a therapist's schedule. Scrolling through a news feed on my phone while eating my cereal, I saw a small headline. Strange celestial body appears in western sky. The accompanying blurry image showed a faint, rounded object, far off, barely visible against the twilight. Probably just some new satellite or a comet, I rationalized. A perfectly explainable astronomical phenomenon. I dismissed it, swiped past, and moved on. That patient, a young man named Alex, was new to my roster. He came in looking gaunt, his eyes rimmed with dark circles. Severe, prolonged insomnia, he reported. But the details were unsettlingly familiar. He described chaotic colored dreams, a jumble of indescribable shapes and hues. And then he added, almost as an afterthought, and there's this voice, inside my head.
It's always there, sort of whispering, urging me to do something big. I don't know. It's just stupid, right? He laughed, a dry, humorless sound. But I didn't laugh, because as he spoke, a sudden, piercing coldness shot down my spine. The clinic's AC wasn't on. The room was perfectly temperate, but I felt it, a chill that seemed to emanate from within me. And then a whisper, so faint it could have been the rustle of his clothes, or just my own frayed nerves. But I knew that voice. It was the same one from my dream, soft yet utterly distinct, brushing past my ear like a phantom breath. My heart seized. His symptoms weren't just similar, they were identical. Alex, mid-sentence, suddenly flinched. He brought a hand up to his ear, his eyes wide, vacant, staring past me at the blank wall behind my head as if seeing something utterly terrifying or inviting there. His lips moved, but no sound came out. No, wait, they weren't moving to form words. They were just twitching. A cold, creeping dread began to spread through me, numbing my limbs. I tried to keep my face neutral, tried to maintain professionalism, but inside, I was screaming. This was no longer just about Alex. This was about me. My voice came out surprisingly steady, though it felt like someone else was speaking. "Alex," I said, leaning forward, I think you need to seek emergency medical attention immediately." As he looked at me, his eyes still distant, I knew he wasn't really hearing me. He was listening to something else. Later that evening, after a long, harrowing day, I found myself back in my office. My hand trembled as I opened my oldest journal, a plain, leather-bound notebook I used for personal thoughts, not patient files.
I started to write, frantically at first, then more deliberately, trying to impose some order on the chaos, documenting everything, every dream, every whisper, every strange occurrence, hoping that outlining it, typing it all out, would somehow make it less real, less terrifying. When I finally got back to my apartment, the exhaustion was bone deep. My mind felt like static. I fumbled with my keys, the metal cold against my fingers. The door creaked open, and a wave of something washed over me. The living room. Everything was covered in a thin, almost invisible layer of dust. And I'd cleaned. I had scrubbed this place top to bottom yesterday. Morning light had poured in, making every surface gleam. Now, the dim light from the street lamp outside filtered through the window, catching millions of tiny particles dancing in the stale air. It felt ancient, like I was breathing air that had been sitting here for decades. This place, it felt like it was in it somehow. My home. I stepped inside, a cold shiver running up my arms. I reached for the light switch. The familiar warm glow of the lamp flickered on, but instead of comforting me, it made the room feel even more menacing. Every piece of furniture, every forgotten trinket on the shelves seemed to stand out with an unsettling clarity, utterly alien. I felt a prickle of unease, a tightening in my chest. My eyes darted around, searching for something. Then my phone. It sat on the coffee table, buzzing. A cold electronic chime cut through the suffocating silence. I snatched it up, my heart leaping into my throat. The screen glowed, displaying a single, chilling message. You missed a call from yourself. And below it, an image. My own face. Evelyn Reed. But not me. Not quite. I was looking into a mirror, or what looked like one, and the Evelyn staring back was smiling. A wide, unsettling smile that pulled at the corners of her mouth in an unnatural way. Her eyes, they were empty, and they were staring right at me. I dropped the phone as if it had burned me. It clattered to the floor, screen down. I recoiled, stumbling backwards until my back hit the wall. I looked down at my hand. It was covered in that fine gray dust. I tried to wipe it off. It clung stubbornly, almost absorbing into my skin. It didn't feel like dust. It felt like something was growing on me, or in me. My skin felt raw, a faint stinging sensation, as if I was calcifying from within. My breath hitched. No one, absolutely no one, will believe me, I thought, my mind racing, spiraling. This really is happening. I'm a ghost in my own apartment. Or maybe I'm just an imperfect imposter, watching myself break apart.
I spent the next hour locked in my study, notebook spread open, trying to make sense of it all. My mind was reeling, jumping from the strange symbol, to the whistle, to Alex's vacant eyes, to that goddamn message on my phone. My rational brain, the one I had cultivated for years, was fraying at the edges, threads coming undone. I had to catalog it. I had to. I flipped through the pages of my journal, my hand still shaking. I had filled so many pages with clinical observations, theories, attempts at psychological explanations. But then, as I turned to a new page, something fluttered out. A single sheet of paper, brittle and yellowed, completely different from the cream-colored pages of my journal. It wasn't mine. I knew it wasn't. My fingers trembled as I picked it up. On it, scrawled in a frantic, almost unreadable hand that felt strangely familiar, like a half-forgotten memory, was a series of symbols. The same angular, swirling shape from Sarah's file, repeating, and beneath it, a single line of text. The gate is open, and you are the key. My breath caught in my throat. I couldn't move. A question, cold and sharp, coiled in the pit of my stomach, spreading through my veins like poison. What if I wasn't just investigating this? What if I was at the center of it? The whispers in my head, the dreams, the symbols. Was I just a conduit? A sensory echo of something vast and terrible? I thought I'd escaped that apartment, those whistles, the dust. But then I closed my eyes, and opening them again, I looked out at the street below. People were walking, living their lives. And sometimes, just for a split second, I saw it. Their mouths moving, but no sound coming out. Just silence. The old neighborhood should have been a comfort, the kind of place where time moved slower. I was driving down Elm Street, a route I'd taken 100 times to visit Mrs. Henderson, a former patient who just liked to chat every now and then. Her house was always neatly kept, a splash of color in a row of muted tones. I glanced at a house 2 down from hers, a small bungalow with a porch swing. And then I saw it. On the porch, hanging from a thin pole, was an American flag. It was still there, the stars and stripes, just like it always was. But something about the colors, it was off. The blue field, where the stars should have been, it wasn't blue at all. It was a dull, almost bleached white, like an old bedsheet left too long in the sun. And the red stripes, the ones that usually looked so vibrant, they were a deep, dark rust, like dried blood. I blinked hard, and my foot instinctively eased off the gas. It was just a glance, nothing more, but the image seared itself onto my mind. "What the hell?" I mumbled, braking slightly. I squinted, looking at it through the windshield. The sunlight, it was low in the sky. Maybe it was just playing tricks on my eyes. Reflections. Yeah, that had to be it. I shook my head, my neck feeling stiff, and then looked away, trying to focus on the road ahead. But then, a few seconds later, I couldn't help it. I risked a quick glance in the rearview mirror. The flag was still there, waving gently in the faint breeze. And it was perfectly normal. The blue was crisp, the red was bright. I frowned, pushing my glasses up my nose. My eyes, they felt gritty. Overworked, Evelyn. That's all it is. And the lack of sleep, the dreams, it's making you see things. Or, just minor details I'm missing. I let out a long breath, a tired sigh. It was a trick of the light. Had to be. My mind, it was playing games with me, messing with basic concepts like color perception. It was a little chilling, honestly, but I dismissed it. I had to. I got home, flung my bag onto the chair by the door, and kicked off my shoes. The apartment felt too quiet, as it always did, but now the quiet itself felt heavy, almost suffocating. I switched on the TV, desperate for any sound that wasn't the hum in my own head, just background noise. The local news was on, thankfully. Something about rising gas prices, a boring city council meeting, normal stuff. I made myself a quick meal, some microwaved ramen, and sat on the sofa, half watching the screen. Then the report switched. Not gas prices, something different. The anchor, a woman with a perfectly coiffed blonde bob, looked grim. "Reports are coming in from several small towns across the Midwest," she began, her voice steady, "detailing an alarming increase in mass suicide."